Hi guys, I am so glad to have you guys back. I am with Didi and Armand, and we are wrapping up Inside Own Your Brand Voice, and we've come to a conclusion. So we are actually doing this after the last week of the course, and so I wanted to give you guys the last, all of you guys who've been following along. I will make sure that there are comments in the descriptions. But if you haven't, make sure that you do go through, because it has been fun to see Didi and Armand's journey as they are going through Inside Own Your Brand Voice, and to really see them flourish and see them grow and see them blossom, really. And so this last video here is going to be, we're talking about weeks. I don't even remember which 2 weeks they were, but it was the mission, vision, and purpose. So that was 1 week. And then the next week after that was the About Me section. So with that, I want to welcome you guys. So thank you. Thank you again for joining me.
Yeah, great to be here.
And so with the first week, or the first section that we're going to talk about today, so like the mission, vision, and purpose. I know that both of these topics, I felt when I was teaching it and when we had an implementation week or two, that you could tell that it was just a heavier week, right? Yeah. Because you hear the mission, vision, and purpose, and you just go, oh, like that's like, I need to get it perfect. Like the perfectionist takes over, right? And say, how do I do it? But do I really know how to do it? But that internal debate. And so I want to at least explain for the ones who are listening, so that you do understand that it is really simple when you break it down. So the purpose is really the reason why you exist. So why you as a business, what you exist. The vision is really your desired end state. What do you want in the future? What do you want in your business to do? What is the impact you want it to have? And then the mission is really your promise and the roadmap on how you are going to fulfill that vision, and the reason, like the implementation of really the reason you exist, right? So that is simply what it comes down to. And so I know this week I had asked you guys to start reviewing, because both of these weeks you really needed to review everything that you had wrote in the past, wrote, whatever, I don't know what the right grammar is. You have written down in the past, right? Yeah. That you have, and I explained to you guys, you have all the answers. You really just need to help just summarize it back through, read and review. And so how was that week for you guys? The mission, vision, were you able to complete it? I know, like I said, we are like, we just wrapped it up. So you might not have fully completed it.
Yeah, it was, it all came together in this week. And it was looking at all the stuff. I have it all printed out here. So I read it through and looked at all my answers. And it's the time to really ask yourself the questions like, okay, what do I really want to do? How do I want to make that impact? Is it, for me, for example, I'm about food and herbs, but do I want to be a therapist, or do I want to be a teacher? And when I looked through all the things that I wrote down, I don't want to be a therapist. I want to be that teacher. So the first mission that I wrote down, Armand said, are you sure this is what you want to do? And and I really had to look at it again, and it didn't say what I really wanted. So you have to be clear on what you want, because that is, bepaalt de richting. It sets the
direction of
where you want to go. So it made me think a lot. So it all came together, but it shaped the direction for where I want to go with my business.
And I know, like, when you say that, I recognize that another thing that I kept teaching you guys and saying it over and over again was, this is just a work in progress, right?
Absolutely.
Like, we want to, as best as possible, solidify and say, okay, I do have a vision that is bigger than tomorrow or, you know, the end of this year, right? I do have a bigger goal. And I do have something bigger, but yet sometimes it's so hard to articulate it. So I'd encourage you guys to just say, just write it down. You can change it as you go, and you can refine it as you go. But at least if we know what direction we are heading or what direction we don't want to head, that's sometimes even more important, is knowing what we don't want. Like you said, you don't want to be the, you know, the therapist. So it's the knowing you don't want that. So what does the future look like? And so that's a perfect example where it really is truly just taking it one step at a time, breaking it down, just writing it out, and then knowing that as you continue doing more work, doing more client work, or you get further along in your studies, you'll refine it further. Yeah. But yet you at least have a direction you were going. So Armand, how was it for you?
Yeah, it was because I already sort of know what I want to do. I'm already doing it. I'm only sharpening it. You know, I'm only sharpening it. And so what I did was I started with a sort of like a rough draft and tried to make it as compact as possible. So when I started with the mission statements, which is about describing what you do, I said strengthening sensitivity, which is really short. I mean, most people were like, what do you mean with that? But when I teach people about feeling, you know, feeling energy, feeling themselves, and strengthening that part of themselves so that they can get more energy, get more vitality, everything. So if I can strengthen that, you know, my job is done. You know, that's what I'm here for. So that's not it yet. You know, it's not what I'm going to put on my website. You know, that's way too short. And then I came to the vision. It's like, well, what would the end result be? It's like, I want a sensitive world. I want a world that's more feeling, less thinking. So, and how can I combine these two in one sentence? Well, I'm still working on that. But yeah, it wasn't not really hard to do. I just went through some of the words we went through, you know, on the archetype things, and I just started combining. And so if I first can make it as short as possible and I can understand it, then I can always expand on it.
Right.
Make sure that everyone understands it, you know, within reason, of course. I mean, some people will always be like, what is this guy doing? You know, it's like.
Exactly. That's, people are going to love you or hate you, but you know.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's fine.
So, but it has to be what I feel that I am doing, and that's maybe saying that Didi was saying is like before you know it, you can write stuff down. That's not exactly what you want to say. Not exactly what you mean. So it's always good to talk about these things and be really sure that it's exactly what you want to do and where you want the end result, what you want the end result to be.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So.
And what I see is that you can always, if you're looking like new workshops or things that you want to create, you can look at your mission and vision. Like, does it fit in?
Does it fit in? Exactly.
Fit in?
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's, or should I change my mission vision? That can be, but yeah, it gives a very good direction. So,
or like you said, I remember you said something like, well, your mission vision can just change with the different things that you know.
Well, and it's your overall, it's going to be an overarching thing, because as a business you exist for one reason, right? Yeah. There is a one reason, but yet you can have you can break it down into a little bit more of saying, okay, this is what my bigger vision is, my bigger mission is, but the way that I implement it, the way that I execute this the purpose, right, can be more articulate, more defined, depending upon the different offerings. Because that's the reason why you have different offers, right? Is because you're trying to meet the different people in where they are. But you'd also brought up a valid idea or topic as well, where your mission vision is, yes, it comes from you, but yet you need to incorporate your customer. So we need to, it's not, oh, well, I want, I can't even think of something right now off the top of my head. I want something bigger and grander, but yet if it doesn't reflect on what your customers want, what your customers need, what your customers desire, what their problems are, and if they are not advocates for the same vision, you're not in alignment. And so that's where it's perfect that you went back to your archetypes, you went back to the words that attract, and dug deeper to say, okay, these are in alignment with me, but you also need to make sure they're in alignment with your customer, and just make sure that everything is cohesive, right? And it melds together, and we start living in a spot where it becomes one, where you and your customer are in the same path, you're in the same driving lane, right? Whether you're in the carpool lane or individual lane, but you need to make sure you're in the same lane, swim lane.
Yeah.
So, that was there anything else on that? Otherwise, was there anything else on that?
Well, how it feels is a little bit like you're slowly but surely sharpening a sword, if you know what I mean. It's like, first you bang the thing, like 10,000 times on the fire, like bang, 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 bang. But that now surely but surely, the thing gets a point and, gets an edge, and you make it shiny and sharpen. And it's like every time you go past the edge of the sword, it's like, oh no, not that word, oh, that word. And it sort of gives it this very, very clear direction. It's like, so.
And the funny thing is that by writing down these words, it starts something in your mind. It
like a subconscious thing.
Yeah, it makes you see things like, oh, what do I want? It starts creativity. So it starts like, oh, and what does fit with this? And so yeah, it's great. It was a great exercise.
Yeah, it's a process. Yeah.
Now, if I would have had you do this exercise at the beginning of the course, would you have been able to do it?
No.
Probably, but it wouldn't. Not with the
clarity.
Yeah, I'm looking for the
conviction
words.
also.
Yeah.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but as you say, we've talked enough that I'm like, I think I know where you're going.
Yeah. I'm trying to get the right word, but yeah, it doesn't have so much meaning if you're just creating a mission vision. If you don't do the other exercises, where does it come from? It's just an exercise then. You're just putting some words on paper, but it doesn't have any meaning, or not as much meaning. And now it's kind of completing this course, all the exercises, and it's all coming together. And now what's there is like, okay, this tells me where I want to go for the coming years. So then it's very powerful to write these words down. Yeah.
And that's one reason why at one time I had debated on having it at the beginning, because it is such a foundational piece. But the more that I reviewed and I looked at how so many other people are doing it, because I felt the same way, that when I was like, okay, I'm writing down my mission vision. Well, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know where it was coming from. I hadn't done any of the introspective to go. So it just became, okay, this is what it is. I think this is what I want. But yet it never sat with me and it never resonated with me. It never felt right. So I was like, did I do it right? And I always felt that I was asking for permission.
Yeah.
Where now it's I don't have to ask for permission because I already know it's in me and I already have all the answers.
Yeah.
You know, you just need help, like Armand, you said with the sharpening a blade, you know, where it's like you just need help refining it and sharpening it and making it smoother and better and, you know, prettier and going from there. So yeah, I just wanted to ask that because that was always one of those where even though it's such a heavy topic, it was one where I had to find the right timing to put it in. So the other topic I wanted to kind of bring you guys to was at this point you have understood where your story was, your original, you know, your how you kind of came to this point. We dug into some of your personal life. We understood your strengths, your strengths, different archetypes that to leverage, your fears, your doubts, your passions, your intentions, all of these things, you know. So like, I mean, this is we kind of brought it all back together. I mean, there's a lot of things we talked about. Yeah. And so bringing it back all together, I wanted to have you guys write an about me statement. And I had told you guys, it was like, whether it's easier for you to do short, medium, or long, I don't care. Because some people are like, I can't write, sometimes if I would say write the long one, it felt very daunting for people. I actually find it easier to write long form and just get it all out and then start refining it. But I do know there are some people who just say, nope, I went for my mission vision statement, I expanded it a little bit further, and I added a few pieces, or they perfected their elevator pitch, and so they refined it there. And so were you guys able to pick what, like, where are you guys at with about me?
I have most of it. I'm kind of at the last paragraph of putting it all together and do the offer, like, but yeah, it's because because we've done all the work and then you're sitting there, and I did write the long version because for me it's also the process and the creativity that just comes out, and I like to write stories, so it's more kind of more like a story,
right.
But it was not hard to write, and we did get all the clues what should be in there, so
right. I gave you, you know, I know I gave you a few different frameworks to follow. I know one of them, the one that I tend to use the most is, I forgot how I called it, but it's essentially like, I've been there, you know, it's the, more of the empathy one of saying, I've been where you're at. I've struggled where you've struggled, or, and that's the most common one that I see. And so I know I gave you that framework. I gave you a few other frameworks to kind of just utilize, but also it really tied into, the storytelling bonus video that we did. And, you know, I know we talked about copy and another bonus. And so, yeah, you have all the tools to leverage and to really create something that feels authentic to you. So I look forward to reading what you wrote when it's completed, and, you know, we can always fine tune together.
Yeah. And it's what you said, like a lot of people, they write about me, about, okay, I'm such and such. I'm so old, and I don't know. Just
I'm so old.
No, I'm not so old. Such
no, but it's the I love coffee.
Yeah.
I love coffee. I love tea. I've been a photographer since I was 10. I first picked up my camera when I was 12. You know, whatever, you know, that kind of a thing, or they would put photos of all of their kids up where it's really unless you're serving somebody with kids, or unless you are really like, that's a piece that you can add. But most people are really wanting to read their about me. It's funny. Most people want to read their about me as a, okay, can I trust you?
Yeah.
Like, do I like what you're saying? How can I get to know you a little bit more? And can I trust you? And then what's in it for me?
Yeah.
Like, that's literally what all they care about. It's really, what's in it for me?
Yeah.
And so when you write it about, I like coffee, I like tea, I like sailing, you know, any of those topics, it's fluff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you're not leveraging your about me section as your number one salesperson, right? Your website really should be your salesperson. It's a static salesperson, but it needs to do its job.
Yeah. So that was it was fun to look at it in that other way, and also looking at your ideal client and what they struggle with, and why did I start this business, and how can you use that information to put in your about me, and so that they recognize, oh, that's what I deal with as well. So yeah. So that was again a good exercise to do, and I think it will be a great about me page.
Well, I realized as you were talking, I realized what the other one was. So the first one is the first arc that I taught you was I've been where you're at, more of that empathy of saying I've struggled, I'm with you, I hear you, I see you, right? Yeah. And then the other one is if things came easy to you, it's I've always had a knack, where it's this came so simple to me, but yet as I got to know other people, I realized that it was so simple for me, yet so hard for them, and I wanted to help. And so those are the two common arcs that I recommend. So I do want to let people know that there is the other one. And like I said, it came to me as you were talking. Yeah. Now, Armand, I remember you wrote your first draft of it. Now, I know I got the Google translated English version of it. Hey, I don't speak Dutch. I can't read Dutch. I have like I can no, just we're not even gonna go there. We're not even gonna try. So I know that when I gave you some insights and some feedback, and I know in part of it I encouraged you to dive a little bit deeper into what is some of the desired outcomes. Like when you were in the search, what were you looking for to bring a little bit more of the emotion or the benefits or the desires into it? Because it was very good, and you had a good structure. I really didn't rearrange your structure. I know I have rearranged other people's structures and said, okay, the story needs to be told slightly differently, where you had a good flow. But I encouraged you to add more of that emotion, that dive into the weeks of your ideal clients, where we talked about the internal and external struggles and their challenges. So was that helpful, or like how was this process for you? Because I know that you're a little bit further.
I think it's the same with the mission statement and the vision statement, that I just started with first, like, get it as compact as I can in the flow that that you talked about. That was, I think, that's okay. But now I have to sort of transform it more to a story. And one of the things you suggested, just rewrite it. But I sort of have now something that I can work with. I can add to, so that I don't have to start anew again. It's more like, okay, this is a rough format, and now I can start tweeting. Is that
tweaking?
Tweaking.
Well, you can tweet all you want, like Twitter will like you, but
yeah.
I think that's quite right.
So no, so I think that's a good starting point, really. That and with the tips that you gave, I think you know, it's like, yeah, I can recognize, you know, if I add on a little bit there and I add on a little bit there, and like you said, the archetype words, I think some of them there are already in there.
Yep.
You know, like in every paragraph, there's some of these words that I deliberately chose. But yeah, it's more what you said. You know, if I can add on that little bit, and I think I will stick with the medium format. And maybe I can, when the mission vision statement is done, I can also make a shorter one. You know,
Yep. Or something at the top. Yep.
You know, I'm going to do a lot of videos as well. So I think and blogs where people can get to know me. They don't really have to get to know me through that. It's more like, oh, is this guy, you know,
Right.
is he trustworthy? You know, but
it's true, because they do need to trust you, because
yeah, sure.
And so the way that you write, like the top pages that people look on your website, it's your home, your pricing, and, you know, pricing your services, and your about me. If they've never ran across you before, those are the 3 things they're going to look at first before they do anything else. I know that's at least what I do. And, you know, and I've read enough studies as well that those are really your 3, because it's who are you, what do you do, and what's in it for me. Yeah. I mean, when you can simply answer that, and then in each of your pages, you write that as well, so that you make sure that those questions are answered, because the more times you answer that question, the deeper they get to know you, the deeper they want to work with you. Yeah. And so, yeah, you don't need a long form at all. Especially since I know you're going to do videos and such. I had a thought and it lost. Oh, there was something you said. That's okay. I can move on. I can move on. Oh, that's going to bother me. That's okay.
Tweeting. I said tweeting.
No, that's okay. So overall, when you guys have, like I said, the course has finished. Yeah. And so, it was a full journey. I know we've talked a lot about, like we covered everything under like all of the key foundational pieces. And I did ask you guys to dive deep. I asked you to be open and vulnerable with me, to be open to share, to also be vulnerable with the group that you went through this with, and to be open with them. And I know they gave you a ton of great feedback as well. And it's been a fun journey to see all of you guys do this together. And what would be the biggest takeaway that you had, or one of the few takeaways that you had from I think we were together for about 12 weeks, so 90 days. You know, it was every week we met for at least once, if not sometimes twice a week. I might change that up next time, who knows? But what was some of your biggest takeaways that we had? I can go through some of the topics if you want to remember.
There's so many takeaways, but I think the most important thing for me is that why am I here at this point, and what do that my business is aligned with who I am, what comes from the heart and not from the outside. And so by doing this course, I really had to look, or I wanted, but you had to look inside. And so to really do something to point your business in a direction that really is aligned with yourself. And I see so many people, they copy someone else instead of really doing something unique. And I think there is a place for everyone, but you have to be unique in your own way. Otherwise, it will never be yours. Something that it will never be yours. you cannot find your place in this big market if you're not aligned with yourself. So I think that was my biggest takeaway, to really get to know myself again, like, and to see why I'm here at this point, why I chose to get this direction, and by going really deep, that it starts my creativity all the time. I'm getting ideas, and which is great. And I think if your business comes from the outside, if you're just copying someone, it's so much harder to find that inspiration. As when you're when you know where you come from, then it's so easy. Then it fits so well, and it feels so. You feel happy to do it. So yeah.
Well, like you said, it just, when you know who you are and you know who you want to serve, it just will come out. Like it comes out so naturally, because it, like you said, it's in alignment. And that's, so that's music to my ears with what you said, because that's essentially what my goal was when I looked at creating this. I wanted you guys to have that deeper insight and have that foundational piece, so that whatever you do moving forward, you have that foundation that you can then leverage and utilize, and that really sits with who you are. Armand, was there anything for you that was a bigger takeaway, or a thing that you...
I think it's everything that she said. You know, I mean, it's hard to add to that, because, you know, it sums it all up. I mean, it's like this journey is like, oh, you get to know yourself, you get to know your client, and then the third part is sort of, you start with the communication. You start, you know, expressing how to make a bridge between these two, right? And that sets up for marketing.
Correct.
So, and that was something, a big takeaway is here, that you understand the difference between the branding part and the marketing part. It's like, what are you going to market if you're not sure what you're going to do, you know, or why you do it, or who you're going to serve? Because I've been doing this now since 2012, and now it's 7 years later, almost. And you're like, wow, why haven't I thought of that? You know, why? I mean, you sort of think about it, but you just go, and now it's like so much clearer. And one thing that really was really like open. Well, how do you say that? Well, just mind blowing, really. Like the archetypes, that was really mind blowing. Just seeing it so clear, it's like, yeah, that's who I am. That's how I am in the world. That's how I communicate, and that's how. So you understand yourself so much better. I think it all starts there. If you know, and you move from. And it's easy not to do that part. It's way too easy not to know yourself. So, yeah.
And maybe also to accept yourself for being who you are. Because what you said, like you have the rebel as an archetype, and to see this on paper, and that it can be a strength instead of something that you should not be, but to embrace it and see it as something that you can leverage and that you can
it's like
use.
It's a tool almost. It's like, oh, I can just be myself.
Yeah.
I don't have to be anybody else, you know. It's not like I was being someone else on purpose. It's more like you're on this journey, and you just sort of move along on the journey. And I was like, no, I'm going to do this journey from the deepest of myself.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. That's just beautiful.
And so like I said, I want to be respectful of your time. I realize that we are at the top of the hour, and I know, Didi, you do need to leave for another appointment. So I want to wrap this up very quickly. I truly want to thank you guys for joining and sharing your story, truly sharing your story with my audience, and letting people see where you've came from. And I love the insights that you're bringing and your feedback for me as well. So I do want to thank you from the bottom of my heart and say thank you so much for sharing your heart with everyone else. And I have enjoyed seeing your journey, and I know we're going to continue working forward, you know, like continue moving forward together. And so with that, I am really excited to see where we can go together and how big we can make this, and really have things just be in alignment. Because, you know, with both of what you teach and what I teach, we all teach that when we are in harmony and in alignment, magic happens. When that all occurs, magic can truly happen. And so I do appreciate you guys, and I'm sure we will have something more later. But for now, I'm going to wrap this up and conclude this. So if anyone is listening and have followed along with us to this point, I want to encourage you to sign up for the wait list, because I do know that I will be opening it up shortly, probably within another month or so. So maybe towards the end of the summer is what I'm looking at right now. I haven't quite set a date yet. But I do know that I'm going to reopen it again. And I want to make sure that if any of this sounds interesting, or at least intriguing enough, right, for that you sign up and at least join the wait list. There is no, you'll get a special bonus as well when you do join that. So if that is of interest, make sure you click the link that is in the description, and we'll go from there. So thank you guys again, and I will let you continue on. All right?
Thank you, Melanie.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.